I love a good challenge. I like watching characters be challenged. It's so satisfying to see them get their asses kicked, and then one training montage, self-revelation, or a mix of the both later, they start to kick ass instead. But sometimes, we just want to watch someone beat the shit out of someone with no problem. Lieb, suffice it to say, has not led a pleasant life. While other children were learning, socializing, and carving their own paths in the world, Lieb was servant to a cruel and sadistic master. Beaten for even the slightest of mistakes, Lieb is stuck in this pit of endless despair. Only Maria, a fellow servant, is allied to her, but even she is not safe from the cruelty of the cards they were dealt. One stormy night, while Maria is comforting Lieb, she pulls her aside and tells her of a plan to burn down the mansion and escape. Lieb and Maria immediately set out to escape this vile house. However, right as Maria is about to set fire to the building, the master of the house catches her in the act. Lieb fights through her shock and runs out of the mansion. She runs into the woods until she gets to the edge of a cliff, with a door leading to nowhere floating above its precipice. She bangs on the door, begging for help until she collapses, and eventually someone opens the door. Opening the door is Adele. We'll go with Adele. Former warrior and hero, but now just a forgotten name. The House Without Time is an excellent example of a character-driven story. The motivations of characters are often the leading compass in stories, however here they are the driving force. The story progresses as the characters grow, and this is very well complemented by the aesthetic and deliberate framing of the artist. Each frame feels like it alludes to something greater, while also keeping this clean and simple look to it. I never feel like a shot is wasted or a character is unnecessary. Everything feels deliberate and purposeful, while maintaining subtlety. Whether it be to contextualize the world, contextualize the characters, or contextualize their motivations, the information and characters we are introduced to feels very deliberate and is meticulously given. I also enjoy how the author doesn't shy away from changing tone, or even art style drastically. It makes the story that much more expressive. This is especially true in Daru Daru. He's great, I promise. The House Without Time gets 9 skulls out of 10. The plot, the pacing, and the art are excellent at keeping you engaged. The only reason this doesn't get a 10 is because it's still ongoing. A powerful wizard uses the remaining life force he has to cast a spell. A spell to summon someone from another world, so that they may inherit his years of knowledge. That person is Taro, although he himself seems largely uninterested. With the briefest of explanations and agreement, Kono Taro is transported to the wizard's former hut. There he is given a breakdown of the simple powers he can use, and is told why he was chosen as a successor. Taro was blessed with an incredible amount of magic. A normal magician has a power of 1, and the great sage has a power of 1,000. Taro is sitting at a clean 8 million, and therefore can use the spell that the old wizard spent his whole life making, creation magic. Simply put, with enough mana, Taro can create any spell he can think of. As such, when Taro is experimenting with his powers, he finds a spell to bring back the dead. In casting it, he brings back the old wizard, however he is now in the shape of the nearest vessel Taro could find. A frog. Stuck together in this predicament, Taro in this world and the wizard in his new frog bod, the two decide to venture out into the world and see its mysteries, and to disappear somewhere quiet and peaceful. Involving themselves in the various kingdoms would only bring trouble anyways. Although, they may have a little trouble being stealthy. I love this manga. It's a fun and wholesome romp, and is an excellent way to do slice of life in a fantasy setting without dulling the setting itself. It's extremely wholesome and a funny read. I would want to give a higher rating, but it was cancelled partway through. I believe it was some family-related issue on part of the author. However, the light novel is still ongoing. I think this story could have been an excellent long-running series. It's still a short and sweet read, though. Emphasis on the short. If it wasn't cancelled so abruptly, it would have gotten higher. It's still a great read that anyone can appreciate, though. This definitely gets a solid 8 out of 10 skulls. This is a world called Thelorathna, and you have been selected as the chosen one. Your goal is to survive and grow stronger in this new world. With that, Ryu Hanbin is thrust into a hellish landscape with a feral helldog at his throat. Just before this, him and many other chosen ones were summoned and thrust into their own hellish landscapes, but not before being embedded with a guideline. For Hanbin, the process didn't go so smoothly. Oops. Mistake. Looks like there's an error with the guideline. Whatever, it's just one person. With that, our protagonist is thrust into this hellish landscape. This is a webtoon that I actively keep up with. Not only is its art terrific, with the huge blasts and explosions as well as the devastating amounts of damage being shown, the character development, plot, and world building are all excellent as well. I am a bit of a sucker for the isekai trope as well, but I don't think this kind of quality is common, especially in the standard isekai. The world is rich, the characters are deep, and the sense of wonder is vast. I think this story is a must-read, and something that will not only be great to binge read, but also to keep up with as it comes out. This most certainly gets a 9 out of 10 skulls. Sweepers are modern-day bounty hunters for hire. Sven and Train are another set of sweepers looking to secure a quick buck. After completing an easy job, the pair stop by for a quick meal, and to figure out their next plans. Suddenly, a bunch of suits armed to the teeth bust through the door, guns blazing. They seem to be after this individual named Hallie. Luckily or unluckily for him, he also has a bounty on his head. Seeing this, Train and Sven rescue the man, and Hallie ends up dead. And Train ends up pissed. As Train confronts the killer seems to recognize Train's tattoo. His tattoo and gun are symbols of the Black Cat, a legendary assassin who is said to embody bad luck. But that assassin is said to be put to death a few years ago. Through superhuman reflexes, strength, and speed, Train concludes this fight in a matter of seconds. The job, having gone to waste, set Train and Sven in search of another. Black Cat is something I read years ago, and I still think it's excellent to this day. The story may not be quirked up with some weird gimmick like turning into a slime or coming in with some wacky oh so quirky trait, but it does present some good old-fashioned character development and world building. This is especially apparent since it's not relying on a heavily established setting such as high fantasy or low fantasy. Following Black Cat as his past catches up to him is a little predictable, but extremely engaging because of how well this piece is written. I would definitely give this a solid 7 out of 10 skulls. I think this is a good, better than average read, but not something I would recommend universally. The New Gate, a VR MMO totally not Sword Art Online, traps its players in a world inside their headsets, and is definitely not Sword Art Online. We pick up our story after the totally not Sword Art Online part has ended. Shin is in the midst of combat with our final boss, and in an encounter with no tension between two characters we don't know or care about, we see some generic random attacks. And then the boss is dead. And the New Gate is finally closed, or it should be at least. Shin finds himself no longer trapped in the game, but he somehow figures out that he is in another world. It's not really clear if it's because he feels a breeze or something, and couldn't normally in the game, or whatever. I guess the important thing is that he does know he's in a new world, and with nothing to do, he goes to recover his former allies and possibly make new ones. I'm not gonna lie, this manga is pretty bad. It's most definitely not Sword Art Online though, for sure. Other than the extremely original concept of being trapped in a VR MMO, this manga is just kind of lackluster and boring. Every time there's a fight or any sort of display of power, it just feels unsatisfying. And half the time, even when something happens, it feels like nothing happened. Each chapter has a weird way of starting back at zero, so it feels like no progress has been achieved. And not in the sitcom way. No character really feels like they're explored any deeper than the shallow caricature they're initially given. Or if they are given depth, even that is shallow, like overcoming a curse that just changes the color of your hair, and in one panel too. Nothing in this manga feels like it has any weight. All of the encounters feel pointless, and not in the way of One Punch Man where it's pointless to fight Saitama. Everything just feels ham-fisted and boring. The art is decent though. This gets a boring 4 out of 10 skulls. That's it for today. Happy reading!